Hello, welcome to tonight's episode of the Group Therapy Podcast. Today we have the Duke, horror host from Tennessee. Duke, tell us about yourself.
Well, I am the Grim Reaper, and I host Tennessee Macabre with Deke Rivers, who's also a werewolf. Now, he was abducted by aliens too. Very tragic story. But we show B movies out of the crypt every Saturday night.
Now, are you on YouTube, or where can I see you at?
Well, we're on a lot of venues. Of course, locally here in Marion County, Tennessee, we are on the River 104.9 FM, and we're on SVEC Connect Channel 4. That's in Marion County. If you are outside of Marion County and you have Roku or Kindle, you can find us at 10 o'clock Central Time on ITV Chattanooga. Just click on the river icon and you can watch the show. Then at midnight, we're on Other Worlds TV, and you find us on Betamax TV for Roku. And then we're also on the Vortex and the Monster Channel on the internet.
Cool. Yeah. A lot of these horror hosts. I grew up in Ohio. We had. I thought we always had one horror host. We had Dr. Creep. Ended up finding out because the town I was in at the time, the guy was the producer for Dr. Creep's New Shock Theater. I became friends with him. Then I got put on TV with my show, and then all of a sudden he's like, "Man, there's a lot of horror hosts out there." I'm like, "What?" And then I found out theirs, and then I started finding out further and further out, and I'm like, "Man," I was like, 12-year-old Paul would have loved this.
Yeah, there's a lot of us.
Yeah, and I have to say I thank every one of you guys, because it is. And I've said this before. I'll say it again. I thought it was a lost art, and it's not. And you guys are bringing it back, and it's so much fun across the board, all different types. So,
yeah. It is a lot of fun. There's some differences between now and the old days. Of course, back in the old days, horror hosts were pretty much exclusively local. In Chattanooga, which is where our market is, we had Dr. Shock and Dingbat. Nashville had Cecil Creep. And each one was just kind of unique and local to the area. We try to recapture some of that being on local radio and local TV. But now with the internet and YouTube and Vimeo and all of these Roku outlets, there is just a ton of places where you can get a show on.
Oh yeah, definitely. It is a almost another golden age, I think, for horror.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, because it's a friend of mine produces some horror hosts here locally, and I was like, man, I'm thinking about becoming a horror host, and he's like, do it. And I was like, and then I started watching all these other guys. I'm like, oh, I could never be that good. So,
of course you can. If I can do it, anybody can.
I do a Saturday morning one. I do Saturday mornings as basically a slightly different version of myself, and because I had to be different, because he's like, just do it. And I was like, okay.
Absolutely.
So how long have you been hosting down there in Chattanooga?
Well, we started in 2017.
Okay.
And we've been on. We decided that we were going to do 3 shows in October of 2017, and the last one was going to be a Hollywood show. The last one was going to be a Halloween show. And then we'd see what happened after that. And we've been on ever since. So it was well received, and we're still doing it.
Yeah. Did you, now, were you public access first, or were you like YouTube first?
We were public access first. We we got on with a radio station, local radio station that's been South Pittsburgh. So we're in the town of South Pittsburgh. It's been South Pittsburgh's local radio station since 1954. And I went to the owner and I said, and I knew he had cable access. And I said, I'd love to do these old horror movies. And I didn't think anything about it, kind of left it at that. We talked about it a little bit. He never contacted me. And then 2 or 3 months later, he said, "Hey, are you ever going to come down here and show some horror movies?" And I've been doing it ever since.
Wow, that's it's funny because I've done these interviews with our horror hosts, and some of them, like, hey, we just decided to. One day we were, we did a haunted house. We just took the character I'd already had and continued from that. And, but then you're just like, hey, I just contacted the guy and said, I'm going to do a horror host. And they're, gotcha. Now,
Well, there's a little bit of a backstory there. I had become involved with a guy. I said that our original horror host here in Chattanooga was Dr. Shaw. Mm-hmm. And there was a guy that sort of reconstituted his act. And I worked with him a little bit because I grew up watching horror hosts, mm-hmm. and I love horror. And there's a theater here in South Pittsburgh that was built in the 30s. And the town has revitalized it. And I went to this guy. I said, "Hey, let's host some horror movies on the big screen," and we did. And then I worked with another group for a while. Met Neil Privet, ultimately played Deke Rivers, and he and I worked with another group. Didn't quite pan out like we had intended. And I called him and I said, "Hey, let's just do our own thing." So it was about a 2 or 3 year process from where I started kind of feeling around with horror hosting until I actually started doing it.
Okay. And now do you have are you just the two of you? Do you have a crew that helps you, or do you put this all together you guys yourselves?
Well, our technical director is TJ. And she does all the putting together and editing and the filming. TJ started from scratch, had never been behind the camera before or edited, and took it and ran with it and has been doing it the whole time. And then, of course, Neil plays several characters. He plays Deke Rivers as his main character. He also plays Mortimer, the poultrygeist. We have a poultrygeist in our cellar. And of course, you can't see him, you can hear him, He's kind of cantankerous and hard to live with. But Neil voices Morty. And then he also does Crimson Demon, the Red Demon, and several other characters he's done over the years. So, Senors and Pantalones. So he does those. And we have Blake Earl, who is doing Kurt Roche occasionally with us. He's kind of a regular guest host, let's say. And Hope Holloway, who does a mummy character. And John Holloway plays Dead John sometimes.
So we
have a core of people we can draw on as well.
Cool, because it's fun because I've talked to other ones who literally do everything themselves. Boom, boom, boom. And then you got other ones who have a nice, good
Yeah.
cast of characters. And I think both of them
Yeah.
are fun because the fact that you've been able to,
Yeah.
in relatively short time, been able to get a group of people together to be able to put this show together. Now that's fun.
Ah, it is fun, and we've got a group of people who are right now working. We love old Mexican films,
mhm,
and there's a handful of Mexican films out there that have been translated into English.
mhm,
Most of them have not. And so we're experimenting, we're developing a script for a Santo and Blue Demon film
yeah,
that is translating the Spanish from English, and the script is about done. As soon as it's finished, we're going to try to dub a film. So we're actually going to dub a film into English and show it in English for the first time, if we can make it happen.
that's cool. I'm a sucker for the Blue Demon Santos films.
Oh,
Those
I love them.
those are great.
They
Um,
are.
and I used to tape trade back in the day, and
Uh-huh.
I ended up with some of those the Santos films, and I think like the first couple I was like, yes, man, watching them and they were kind of dubbed, and then I got into the
Yeah.
ones later, and I'm like, oh, this is all Spanish. I know like 8 words in Spanish.
Yes. Yeah. So that's kind of what we're working with, because there's a vast amount. One of the things you run into hosting horror, in the old days, TV stations would buy a package of movies called Shock Theater and
Mhm.
Shock Theater 2. And I don't know, it was about 40 or 50 movies released from Universal and different studios, and they had the rights to show these.
Mhm.
Well, nowadays, we can't get the rights to show those. So we're working with public domain films, and anything you can do to expand that list of films that you show is good. You
Oh
know,
yeah.
it's always good to come out hosting a film that nobody's ever hosted before.
Yeah, it's definitely because I've talked with other ones, and it's like everybody's done Night of the Living Dead. Everybody's done. Um, it was the Satanic Rites of Dracula. Everybody,
Yes.
yeah, yeah, the ones and that's what I think's weird is like, okay, Satanic Rites of Dracula is in public domain, but the other 6 or 7 Dracula movies aren't. How did that one slide through? Uh,
Have you watched it?
yeah.
No, it's actually one of my favorite flicks. It gets a lot of grief. I don't know how it wound up in public domain. Uh, it amazes me that it's in public domain, and then the Seven Golden Vampires, the one that comes after it, that is a vampire slash martial
Kung Fu
arts
movie,
film,
yeah.
isn't in public domain.
Yeah, I think that one is because of the Shaw brothers, the Hong Kong company that made their half of it. Because I don't think Hammer has.
That may very well be.
Yeah, Shaw brothers don't let nothing go.
Yeah, you mentioned that one, and the Hammer executives start to hide behind furniture and stuff.
I own it somewhere.
I do too. I love it. It's actually a pretty cool flick.
Yeah.
But
Peter Cushing, man, he goes in there and he's having fun with a martial arts kung fu vampire flick. But
that's right.
yeah, but oh, did we freeze here?
Actually, Dracula and that martial arts vampire flick are my three favorites of the Hammer Vampire series.
The first one is probably my favorite just because it was so different than everything that had come before it. Because that's the first time you saw the fangs, you saw the blood, and everything.
Yeah,
I have a soft spot for that one, but yeah, I love the kung fu. I love Seven Golden Vampires. That's
I do too.
that's
And Satanic Rite, you got dudes riding around on motorcycles with lambskin vests. I mean, how much groovier can you get?
Yep. Oh man, is that was getting towards the end of Hammer's original run though with those movies. So
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they were fishing for material big time.
I just love Christopher Lee, how they conned him into like those last couple movies. Was they go, look at all the people that are going to be out of a job if
Yeah.
you're not Dracula, and he felt bad, so he came back as Dracula. And
Well, thank you, Chris. We'll eat another week.
I am a I have a huge soft spot for Christopher Lee because I'm a Christopher
Me too.
Lee. I am Paul Christopher Lee. So that is my real legit name.
Oh, pretty cool.
Yeah, I kept telling my mom, I was like, because she's like, you were almost Christopher Lee. I'm like, why wasn't I? Because I was like, I could have been named after the guy that was Dracula instead of you just came up with some names.
I met this guy at a party a few years ago, and he was the spitting image of Christopher Lee.
Wow.
The only drawback was he was not anywhere near as tall as Christopher Lee. I think Christopher Lee was like 6'6" or something, really tall guy.
Amazingly tall.
And of course, this gentleman had a pronounced North Alabama accent, which was very different from Christopher Lee's accent.
Yeah.
I walked up to the guy. I said, "Dude, would you be willing to act at all?" And he said, "No." I said, "Has anybody ever told you you look like Christopher Lee?" And he said, "No." And I said, "Okay, I'll leave you alone then. Go ahead, order your Big Mac, and I'll leave." Yeah.
Really? Yeah. Okay. Here we get into the serious questions, the hard hitting questions. All right. This is the one I ask everybody. Money's no object. What movie are you showing on your show?
The Mummy, 1931, Boris Karloff. Or 1958, Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing.
Yeah, I love those movies. Those are good movies.
I love both of them.
I think Karloff's I think Karloff's Mummy does not get the credit it deserves because that one is everybody looks at him as Frankenstein, but you need to look at him as the Mummy too, because that's just
need to look at him as the Mummy. I feel like, that was a very serious Mummy movie.
Mm-hmm.
And it was most of the rest of the Universal Mummy, all the rest of the Universal Mummy series is very comedic.
Mm-hmm.
But Karloff's take on the Mummy is definitely, it's all horror.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that. Of course, the same is true of the 1958 Hammer Mummy movie. There's nothing comedic about it. It's a horror movie from the word go. And I love, there's not a Mummy movie in either series that I do not love. I love Hammer Mummy movies. I love Universal. Even like the one that's set in the bayous of Louisiana that makes no sense whatsoever. I still love it. But it's good,
Oh yeah. I tell you what, the one, and I cannot think of the name off the top of my head. The one where they go through and they scratch his eyes out in every frame to give him the empty eye sockets.
Yeah.
That is, I mean, that works for that was like 1940s, and you're just like,
yeah,
that was crazy good for that time. And the fact that somebody had to,
really good special effects on all those movies, and really good makeup. Of course, Jack Pierce's makeup for the Karloff's Mummy was impeccable.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, it was good on the others as well.
Yeah. Although that the Mummy movies in Universal have the craziest timeline,
Yes.
because I think the last one takes place in the 1990s.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they cover the whole century.
Yep. Oh man. Okay. This is the other one. Have you ever put together an episode of your show
Mhm.
only to find out that the movie you're trying to air wasn't in public domain anymore?
I hope the FBI is not watching this, but yes, yes, we have had that unpleasant event happen.
Ooh.
Um, we found out this particular flick. You know, we shot it, we loved it, and we aired it. And Neil went, I think, to Pensacon, and somebody looked at him and said, "Hey, man, you know he will come after you if he finds out you're showing that." And Neil's like, "Isn't it public domain?" I don't know whether it is or not, but he says he owns it. So that was a bad experience. Well, nothing happened. You know, it just was. I have heard that now Night of the Living Dead is copyrighted some sort of way.
Yeah. See, I'm not sure on that because I've heard up until a couple weeks ago that it was still in public domain, but
Yes.
you know, I think somebody finally has the distribution rights
Yeah. Yeah.
and like legit distribution rights, not like back in the 80s and 90s, where anybody who could record it onto a VHS tape or put in a DVD. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, with the last time we showed it, I do a lot of promoting online. And the last time we showed it, the company that has the distribution rights started following our Instagram account. They never said anything.
Hmm.
I looked it up on IMDb and it said they had the distribution rights. So I don't know where that lies.
Hmm. That's weird. All
It
right.
is.
Yeah, it's funny because with I've talked to another host and he was telling me because there's MGM is bad at going, yep, we have the rights to that. Yeah, we have the rights to that
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
know they don't.
Yes. And they will all tell you, you know, everybody will tell you, even if they'll say, well, we own the rights, or you shouldn't be showing anything unless you have paid for the rights. And I tried to work a deal with some of the PBS stations in Tennessee. Memphis said, "Oh, we're real interested in showing your stuff, but you got to provide documentation that either you have the rights or they're in public domain, or we can't do anything." So, you know, that's kind of a drawback, but it's 2022. How many people are tuning in to PBS on a Saturday night?
No.
Not many.
My my 11-year-old does, but he tunes into PBS Kids. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I would really. I'm much happier with. I mean, you know, if a big station out of Memphis or Chattanooga come up to me or Nashville and said, "Hey, we want to run Tennessee Macabre," I would be very happy. But I am also ecstatic that we're on Other Worlds TV because Other Worlds TV gets a lot of viewers. And the folks that tune into Other Worlds TV are folks that are out there looking for hosted horror films.
yeah.
So you're getting to the people that want to see it. Same with the Vortex. You got a group of people that stream that and they get in there and chat while it's going on. And these are folks that are legitimate horror buffs, like horror hosts movies. A lot of them are horror hosts themselves. So I like that. And then we get a lot of local viewers and a lot of people that watch us on ITV Chattanooga. That's growing too.
Yeah. It's well, with the advent of YouTube, with now all these like Roku channels and like the streaming stuff on online, you used to only have X amount that you would ever really reach outside of like we were talking about. Well, I was talking about tape trading, and so you're kind of just like, okay, you've got like 15 minutes north, 15 minutes south, 15 minutes west, east, and you might get that little section if you're lucky.
Uh-huh.
And now it's
Yeah.
worldwide. Uh, um,
Yeah.
my show, I never thought in a million years. My show started out essentially as a glorified commercial for my comic book store, and
Right.
I have people contact me and they're like, "Oh, hey, hi from Germany." And I'm like, "You're from Germany? You're watching my show? Wow, thank you." And
Very cool.
does that ever do you ever like sit down and like just look at that and just like, wow, that's really from
Yeah.
way over there?
I've been chatting with a guy from Glasgow, Scotland,
Wow,
for the past week. It is he's a fan.
cool. I
Yeah.
I love horror hosts and stuff, and especially yes, you have some horror hosts that aren't you know I guess TV friendly, but I show at my shop. I'll find back when the Monster Channel, because the Monster Channel doesn't work on my Roku right now. Um,
Right.
yeah,
You have to stream it.
yeah. I will go find different horror hosts that I can find on YouTube, and I'll stream them on my TV behind me at the shop. And I'll have people come in. They're like, "What is this?" I'm like, "Oh, this, my friends, is a horror host." And I've turned so many people who had never heard, and because my clientele is a lot of 20s into 40s, so
Right.
it's people who hadn't got that yet, and now I'm like, they're like, what are these guys do? And they're like, are they in the movie? I'm like, no. Well, some of them do put themselves in the movie and stuff, but I was like, they'll come in, they'll give you
Right.
little tidbits of information, they'll kind of make fun of the movie, they'll do little skits and stuff, and they'll sit there and they'll watch it, and they're like, what channel is this? And I'm like, all right, well, what you need to do is find these people right here. And I'll write them a note and hand them to them. I'm like, find them on YouTube, you can find them on Facebook, and then you can go from there. So you know
Yeah. That's
yeah, I tend to basically, here, people, take what you want.
yes. Yes. And that's something I've discovered too. You kind of have to evangelize for horror hosting and evangelize for these. Um, a lot of folks have never watched some of these old B movies,
Mm-hmm.
believe it or not. You talk about horror, and the thing that they start talking about is paranormal, and not that there's anything wrong. Those are great movies. But you ask them, well, have you ever watched The Monster of Pedras Blancas? Oh, what's that? So you're acquainting a younger generation a lot of times with something they've never experienced before.
Mm-hmm. It's a couple years back, I found an 8mm projector, found some 8mm films, and I got like the little tiny, I think 5 minutes of Bride of Frankenstein, but I have
Yeah.
the Monster Walks and Manster, and people are like, I've never
Yeah.
heard of these. I'm like, well, go find it. And then I found I can't remember which horror host it was. I'm like, these guys are doing this because these movies are long out of print and long out of in the public domain. I was like, go watch these, you'll love it. So
Yes.
Here's one of my other big hard hitting questions. If you could have any guest on your show, who would you have?
Living.
Yeah, no, I take that back. I always say time and money doesn't matter. So you can have anybody.
Okay. If I could have anybody, that's still a hard call. The first name pops into my mind is Ed Wood. Ed Woods. Just because I'd like to sit down and talk with the dude, man.
Mm-hmm.
And in that same vein, I think Bela Lugosi, Tor Johnson, Boris Karloff, of course, you know, Lon Chaney. I mean, those are the guys I would want to put on my show. I mean, that would just be cool.
It's funny because I believe Ed Wood is the number one answer for horror hosts.
Yeah.
If they could have somebody on their show, if it's not number one, it's really close. So,
Well, you look at what Ed Wood did,
mm-hmm.
and Ed Wood took next to no money and very little in the way of traditional Hollywood, script writing. I mean, you name it, he was cutting corners.
Mm-hmm.
And he put together some movies that folks are still watching and talking about today.
Oh, yeah.
Bride of the Monster is one of my favorite movies. Plan 9 from Outer Space, which is he's probably his most famous movie.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, when you break it down and you look at Plan 9 from Outer Space in that time period, most science fiction movies consisted of an attack from the outside, either by an alien or a giant cockroach or whatever, and a team of government scientists and the military showed up to defeat the creature and save the world.
Mm-hmm.
In Plan 9 from Outer Space, Ed Wood is the first person who looks at it and says, man, you can't trust the government.
Mm-hmm.
There's a conversation in there with each other about been going on all over, and that we've been keeping it from the public. It's the first time you ever see that in American cinema, I think. And he's like 20 years ahead, 30 years ahead of the X-Files.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I've seen Plan 9. I couldn't count how many times I've seen Plan 9 from Outer Space. I've actually seen it in a theater on a big screen, and I've seen it both as the riff track version and just saw the movie. So,
right. Well, the shop theater I talked about that was hosting films at the Princess Theater in South Pittsburgh, they did Plan 9 from Outer Space. That's one of the films they hosted. So I've seen it in the theater.
Those are always fun, watching some of the classic movies.
Yeah.
And Ed Wood, I think, is interesting because, he befriended all these people on their way out of being famous.
Yes.
And he was like, well, I'll put you in a movie.
Yes.
And it worked. And, because he caught, Bela Lugosi at the end of his career. He had his whole group of people that he just worked with from time to time.
Tor Johnson and Criswell.
Oh, yeah. The
little Mary Beth.
Yep. Well, I got lucky years ago, and I have my signed copy of Tim Burton's Ed Wood, signed by George the Animal Steel.
Yeah.
Oh,
wow.
Yeah. He was in Detroit. I think he was in Motor City Con one year, and I happened to have. I was like, hold on a second. I ran out, got in my car, and was like, I got this, and he signed it, and he was. This was so much fun. He goes,
yeah.
I remember watching Tor Johnson wrestle when I was a kid.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
I love Tor Johnson trying to do dialogue in Plan 9 from Outer Space.
Oh, yeah. Because
it's one of my favorite things.
What was it? I read I had a friend loan me the book, the Ed Wood book, and I could not remember the title of it me. But evidently he got the dialogue because Vampira wouldn't speak. So
Yes.
yeah, and I'm
Yes.
like, but they're two completely different characters. It's not like that Tor Johnson happened to be playing the same.
Yes.
I was like, she's
Yes.
one of the aliens. You're a police officer. I was like, how did you get from point A to point B? But they did. So, and
That was a problem for Ed Wood.
yeah,
He could get from point A to point B, and sometimes he'd stop at C and E.
yep. Not necessarily. He wouldn't necessarily go in order because you have A and B over here. You come down here, hit C, go up here, hit E, back here. The
Yes.
one was it Bride of the Monster, where Tor Johnson goes through the door, and
Yeah.
there's almost a year difference from him going from the living room to the lab. Is almost a year.
Yes.
Yeah, and you're just like, wow, and he still did it. He was,
Yeah.
and
Made it work.
yep. And as far as what I was reading is just he was always up until the day he died, essentially, was still trying to get money to make movies. He was trying to talk to
Yes.
people, and I was like, hey,
Yes. Yes, indeed.
uh, the being a horror host,
Mhm.
and you're in Tennessee. Who are some?
Yes.
Now, are you connected with any other horror hosts? Have you ever done joint episodes or shows or anything with local other hosts?
I have never done any joint shows. Now, there's a guy in Nashville, Count Drahoon,
Mm-hmm.
and Count Drahoon is a little bit different. What he does, he is a horror host, but what he does is he puts together a group of voice actors, and they do like a radio show stick. So they will actually perform a radio skit on stage, and it's a pretty cool thing. I've worked with him some. He used my studio. I wasn't involved in the actual production or acting in it, but other than that, no, I haven't worked with any other horrors. We have three here in Tennessee, including Tennessee Macabre, that I know of, other than Count Drahoon. I kind of classify him as a little bit different.
Mm-hmm.
You have Dr. Gangrene in Nashville, and then you have Eulogy Mortem up in Knoxville.
Yep.
I've talked with Eulogy Mortem, but we've never, we don't know each other well enough to say, hey, let's do something together. And I've never even spoken with Dr. Gangrene. I watched part of his show last night, but I've never really spoken with him.
Yeah. Eulogy, I did the interview with her not too long ago, and that was a fun interview. I love talking about going and doing the paranormal investigation out of character, and people trying to figure out who the old man was.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Now, a lot of horror hosts do this. Are you connected to any of your local haunted houses in your area?
No, we don't have any in. I live in a small town west of Chattanooga, and unfortunately, I did haunted houses here growing up, but unfortunately, they don't really have a haunted house here anymore. There are a couple in Chattanooga, but I'm not really connected with them.
Okay. So, all right. Do you have a favorite episode of the show that you've done? A movie that you were able to get that you were just like, yes, I got my movie.
There are a couple that come to mind. One of my favorite movies of all time, Tombs of the Blind Dead, and we hosted that one, and I was just really excited about that. And then I love Bride of the Monster, and I love the show we did around Bride of the Monster. I think that's a really good episode that we did. And then here, about a year ago, we did something. I want to do this again. We pulled a series of shorts off of YouTube, got permission to use them from the
Mm-hmm.
creators. And these shorts were all based on H.P. Lovecraft stories. And we called it An Evening with H.P. Lovecraft. And so we hosted a bunch of YouTube shorts. And I like that episode a lot.
Now, I know other hosts will do, some of them have done live episodes. Some of them have done, when their episode drops, they'll stream it and then they'll converse with their fans and stuff like that. Do you ever do anything like that?
We have done some shows live from the radio station. Didn't really work out the way we wanted it to. Wasn't bad, just wasn't. It's hard. It's hard. It's a different beast doing it live.
Mm-hmm.
Now we have done some. We have a drive-in screen and a projector, and we have in the past done some drive-in movies and went out and we licensed movies to do at the drive-in, and you can license like if you go through Swank and you do it for a non-profit, you don't charge admission.
Mm-hmm.
You can license we licensed Creature of the Black Lagoon. We did the 1958 Mummy. We did Horror of Dracula. We did several, and that was a lot of fun. We did that. But as far as chatting, now you can go to the Vortex usually shows a Tennessee Macabre episode every other Friday night. So I think probably this Friday they'll have one up. I'm sorry, every other Saturday night. So I think this Saturday they'll probably show a Tennessee Macabre episode. And you can get on and chat with the folks while it's showing, and that's fun. I'll be on there Saturday night. And then the Monster Channel, their streaming channel on TV, and you're right, you can't find them on Roku, but you can go to monsterchannel.com. Mm-hmm. They have a chat that goes on while they stream the show, and I'll get in those and chat when they show my show.
Cool. Now, do you ever hit the convention circuit and go and do any of the? Yeah.
Oh yeah, we went to Monsterama back in well, it was October, I guess. Last September, we did Comic Book and Horror Festival over in Columbia, Tennessee. And I'm planning to go to, there's one coming up in Knoxville in October. I'm trying to think of the name of it. I can't think of the name of it right now. We'll be there, and we'll be doing Monsterama again. So love to do cons. It's a great way to get out and meet folks and network, and
Yeah. That's how I discovered, before I started finding people on YouTube. I went to a horror hound in Columbus, Ohio, and they had a room of nothing but horror hosts. And I'm like, okay. And I was like, I spent a ton of money buying DVDs off of them so I could go home and watch them. And then shortly thereafter, I found a bunch of them on YouTube, and I'm like, all right. And I'm telling all my buddies, you got to watch these guys. Here.
Yeah.
Then I loaned out some DVDs that I never got back. So,
of course, it happened.
Yep.
Last week we went to the Nashville New Moon or Nashville Full Moon Horror and Tattoo Festival, and that was a lot of fun. I actually met Joe Bob Briggs there.
Yeah, that's one person I have never met, and I want to very badly meet Joe Bob.
Very nice guy, very laid back, just what you'd expect, Yeah.
I heard he's one of them guys that is just, he still doesn't understand why he's famous. He's just like,
well, Blake went with me to that festival, and he ran into him. There was a little coffee shop, and somebody walked up and said, "Let me pay for your coffee." and said, Joe Bob looked at him and said, "Why are you going to pay for my coffee?" And the guy said, "Well, you're Joe Bob Briggs." And he said, "Yeah, but that don't mean you need to pay for my coffee, you know." And he's but very down to earth and very much, you know, just a Texas good old boy,
Yep.
you know.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Now here we go. Now your
Mhm.
character, was your character set in stone from day one, or did it morph and become what you are now?
Well, of course, there's a little bit of morphing, okay, but how this started when I first got involved, I did not want to be on stage. And I was with another group, and we were doing a live show in Chattanooga, all theatrical. We weren't really hosting anything. And somebody canceled, and they called me, and they wanted me to do the show. And I said, "Well, I don't even have a character." I said, "Oh, we want you to come up with a character. You don't have to, you won't have any lines. You just come up there." Well, at the time, I worked for the state of Tennessee, and I did food stamps. And like any government bureaucracy, there was a whole bunch of codes, you know, and if you changed somebody's food stamps or denied their food stamps or approved it, you had to use the right code. And we just had somebody lecture us on the evils of the wrong code that morning. And the guy that sat in front of me said, "Dude, this person's this person's income went up, and I am changing their food stamps, not cutting it out, but it's changing their food stamps, it's lowering their food stamps. Do you know the code for that?" And I said, "I sure do. It's 049." He said, "Boy, you sprang that one awful quick." He said, "Well, I know most of these codes. I've been doing this a while." And he said, "Okay." So I had to walk off. I walked off to my boss and I said something. I come back and the guy looked at me and said, "Duke, I can't find that code." I said, "Are you sure?" I said, "Well, that's the one that it is." He said, "No, that code for what I need is 048." So he got in, there was this computer program you went in to look it up, and he said, "I finally found that code, Duke." And I said, "Well, what is it?" He said, 049 says, "Someone in your aid group has died, so we have reduced your food stamp amount." And so he started calling me the Grim Reaper. And I thought, you know what? That's going to be my character in this show. Yeah.
I like that.
And then when we actually designed the Grim Reaper for Tennessee Macabre, I wanted it, you know, we were very deliberate in picking Tennessee Macabre. We wanted to make it very regional, very southern. And I wanted my Grim Reaper, rather than being the European Grim Reaper with the sickle, I wanted it to be more like Baron Samedi from Voodoo, and uh, modeled the coat off of a Civil War era coat. So I tried to make it as southern fried and as, you know, as local and as regional as I make it.
Cool. Cool. Now, do you have any advice for people who want to become horror hosts?
Yeah. Uh, I think a lot of times when people want to be horror hosts, the first thing that they talk about is they talk about script, they talk about what movies they're going to show. The first thing you need to talk about is cameras, filming, and editing, because that's going to become, it doesn't matter how good your script is, and it doesn't matter what you show, if you can't edit and you can't film, it's not going to look good. So the hardest thing, and we've been very fortunate in that we had somebody that wanted to do that, you know, but that is the first thing you got to nail down. Once you nail down the production end of it, you can do anything.
Now, well, that what advice do you have for finding their character?
I think that in this particular field, it's not like acting where somebody's paying you to totally be somebody else. I think you want to find something that's an extension of your personality. Okay. So you need to look at something that meshes. I think Deke or Neil has done really well with being, Deke the biker slash werewolf that's abducted by aliens. That really fits his character. I think my Grim Reaper fits my character. Southern fried, half drunken Southern psychopompous.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of works for me. But you got to find something that works for you and that you'll be comfortable doing. I tell you one thing that I regret. If I had to do it over again, wouldn't do this much makeup.
I think that's everybody's answer with that one.
Yeah.
Everybody goes,
It looked really cool the first time I did it.
well, it's not that it doesn't look cool. It still looks cool, but it's the a lot ago. If I knew that I was going to have to be in makeup before every episode, I would have picked something a lot easier to do.
That's right. That's right, man. Because I spend 30 minutes to an hour getting into makeup, and I just about have to have help. I've done it on my own sometimes, but I just about have to have help to get it done right and make it look good. So that would be one thing I would change.
And your answer is really close to a lot of other people's answers. Always be yourself, be an extension of yourself. A wrestling friend of mine told me, he goes, if you're going to be the gimmick, he goes, you be yourself turned up to 11. And
yes,
and I was like, and everybody's like, dang, that's a good answer. Good stuff. That turn yourself up to 11. And
that's very good. I like that.
And that came from a wrestler, not a horror.
Yep.
So I should have asked you that. Since you're in Tennessee, do you watch wrestling?
I actually do like. There's a group right down the road from me in Fayetteville, Alabama, called Rocket City Wrestling, and I actually talked with them about trying to get them on TV. And I've not been able to put together the kind of money I would need to do that. I would actually love to promote that and get it on TV because it's a good group of wrestlers. I do watch some of the big wrestling, but I like local wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
I like good local. Let me rephrase it. I like good local wrestling.
See, we used to have a good local wrestling. Within about 30 minutes. And there's still a good organization about 30 minutes north of me, but they do it on a Saturday afternoon and I'm at work. I own my own business. It's hard for me to leave.
Right.
We do a pretty good independent circuit around here. And it's funny because there is a lot of horror hosts have a connection to wrestling, I've discovered. And so,
yeah.
And I just think that's fun. And to be honest, that was a thing even back in the day, because when horror hosts popped on, wrestling was either like the lead-in show or the show after it. Because
yes, that would be my dream, to have Rocket City Wrestling airing right before Tennessee Macabre.
See, recently I had a chance to buy a wrestling ring, and it was dirt cheap. And I looked at my wife and I told her, I was like, I got the money, I want to buy it. And she's like, well, I'm not telling you no, but she goes, you keep yourself way too busy. And I'm like, well,
yeah.
And she goes, I said, no, I was like, I'm going to put that off on somebody else. I'm just going to I'm going to own the company. I got a place I got a venue, I got the ring. I can, I'll have somebody else book the talent and I'll have somebody else book the matches. And she goes, you say that now, but you won't. And I'm like,
Won't work that way. No.
yeah, I was like, the woman's known me. I mean, I've been with my wife for 30 years now, and well, closing in on 30 years, and she knows me pretty well at this point.
Yes, indeed.
Yep. Because I was like, well, I wouldn't be there all, and she goes, you would be there more than you probably would want to be, and I was like, yeah, well, that's true.
Yep.
So that's what I like about doing my shows, because I can literally do them in my basement.
Yes. Yes, indeed.
Um, you do yours out? You do yours out of the studio, right?
Oh, well, we use see, my ex mother in law's studio or my ex mother in law's basement is our studio.
Okay.
So we film in her basement, and it's an older house. It's brick and stone basement, so it really works for what we're doing.
Nice.
Yeah.
Hey,
She's good enough to let us use it.
yeah. Hey, the fact that you've still got that good of a deal with your ex mother in law, that's a pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
And for a little while in the fall, we shot in an old high school auditorium. The high school is no longer used as a high school, and worked a deal. They let us do some shows up there. That was kind of cool.
yeah, my hope is, I got fingers crossed here. Um, there's a building about 3 blocks away from where I live. It's actually
Mm-hmm.
2 buildings away from the house I grew up in, and
Mm-hmm.
it has a garage underneath, but it has this big area up on top. And my goal is that I want to buy this so that I can have a warehouse and I can set up a studio in it, so I can have everything just set up. I don't have to film in my house. I can go film over there. I can have everything hooked up, so I can start, because I have people from my show that want to be on the show, that want to be characters, but I'm like, I don't want to have them come into the house. And
Exactly.
so,
Exactly.
yep.
I would love to be at a point, and I've looked at this, where I have a dedicated studio that is for film production, also audio, because I do some podcasting and make some music shows as well. So I would love to have some dedicated studio space where that's all we do. And maybe we'll get there at some point.
What's your podcast that you do, and your
Well, my podcast is the Reaper's Digest. I do that with Blake Ray. We recorded an episode of that about an hour ago, as a matter of fact.
hey, it's
And
yeah.
we look at, well, tonight we talked about Amityville Horror, the book. And so we try to look at horror literature. And we've been on a jag for a while where we're looking at horror literature and then the movies that came off of it. So the next show, we'll look at some of the Amityville horror movies. We did a 3-parter on Dracula, Bram Stoker's Dracula, and then we looked at, of course, the Bela Lugosi Dracula and Hammer, and then we looked at some of the Draculas, like Satanic Rites of Dracula, that were spun off of it. So we've done that. We've done a lot of horror literature.
That's pretty neat. I like that. So,
Thank you.
what kind of music do you work on?
Well, I got a couple of shows. I do, me and a buddy of mine record music for a local comic book store. And so we do like classic, not really classic rock, a lot of garage band, a lot of punk, a lot of music you don't hear on the radio. Okay. And then we also, Blake and I have a radio show called the Hellbilly Hootenanny that is very similar. It's rock and roll, punk, cowpunk, psychobilly, and that airs on Weird Sisters Radio Network, which is a radio. It's an internet radio network, but it's out of Toronto, Canada.
Neat. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
What's some of the band? If you mind if you name off some of the bands you've worked with?
Okay. We do a lot of the Cramps, the Misfits.
Okay.
We do Los Castillos, which is a Peruvian band, really cool music. Play a lot of Bo Diddley. We play a lot of, and this is back and forth on both shows, you know. Um, Trying to think, Four Barrel Funeral is a local, no, it's not local, it's a Nashville based group or Columbia based group. We do some of their stuff. Blake's band is Blood Oaks. They're about to have a new album released. Of course, we play some of their stuff. Um, just all kinds of fun music.
Neat.
One of my favorite bands is the 5678s. That is a Japanese band.
Yeah.
It's an all girl.
Yeah, they're in
Kill Bill.
Pulp Fiction.
Yes. No, Kill Bill.
Kill Bill. Yes. I was gonna say I know I have the soundtrack on CD with them on there somewhere.
Yes.
Unfortunately, with streaming now and my CDs have gotten put away, and I don't. But my vinyl is easy. My vinyl, I can just go like this and reach over and grab it.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. And that's an eclectic group of music right there. And it's
it is, yeah.
Yeah. I thought I was bad. I am so somebody asked what was the question? Was it what's the soundtrack to your life sound like? I was like, wow.
Yeah. Some wild stuff there, baby.
I was like, it would be everything from synthwave to outlaw country to Frank Sinatra to death metal to.
I was gonna say we do a lot of like Johnny Cash, Johnny Horton, Merle Haggard. You know, do a lot of that too.
Yeah. See, I grew up on that. I'm trying to get my dad to listen to Sturgill Simpson, and
oh wow,
yeah, and I'm like, listen to this guy. I was like, I think you'll like him. And I got him hooked on a band called the Steel Woods. Have you ever heard of them?
Heard of them, yeah.
Yeah, I got lucky. They opened up for Clutch at a concert, and I'm like, wow, this band's good.
yeah.
And I was there for Clutch and ended up liking one of the opening bands too. So,
I tell you a story. I guess 83, 84. We were going to a concert in Chattanooga, and we were going because Bon Jovi was playing.
Mm-hmm.
And Bon Jovi had just charted. I believe the song was "Runaway."
Mm-hmm.
It was their first time they charted, and we sat there and listened as that thing climbed the charts because they were opening for Ted Nugent.
Yeah.
And my buddy looked at me and said, "You know, if this hits number one, they'll back out at concert." I said, "Yeah, I know." Well, sure enough, it hit number one, and the next day they announced they were backing out of the concert. And he said, "Do you want to drive all the way to Chattanooga to listen to Ted Nugent?" I said, "Well, you know, I've heard of him. I know he was big." I said, I mean, we got the tickets. I mean, it doesn't make any sense to just sit here in South Pittsburgh on Saturday night. So let's go listen to the man. So we loaded up there, and the opening act, they Bon Jovi pulled so close to the night that they couldn't find an opening act. So they had the record promoter, and they dressed him up like Elton John, and trotted him out there to try to sing some stuff, and it was just horrible. And I'm sitting there looking at Brock going, "Oh my gosh, this is horrible, man." He said, "Yeah, I know." I said, "I think we might have been better off sitting in South Pittsburgh." And then Nugent come out, and that's the best concert I have ever heard in my life. A lot of people don't like Ted Nugent because of his politics and whatever. I can understand that, but I can tell you what, one thing's for certain, that man can play a guitar.
Oh yeah. Yeah, he's definitely one that people are polarized on. But yeah, he was huge, man.
Yeah.
At one point, I mean, you could not listen to the rock station without cat scratch fever or
Under thigh.
yeah, stranglehold.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man. We see. I haven't had anything like that. We've went. I've seen bands that
Mm-hmm.
opened for what was then a big band, and then they become a big band later. I saw Pantera open for Skid Row.
Yes.
That was my prom. I bailed on my own
Oh, wow.
prom to go see Pantera and Skid Row. And my wife still got it
Yeah.
because my wife's a couple years younger than I am, so I had actually been out of school. I was out of school when she graduated, and her prom we went and seen Slayer. So
Oh, wow.
and, and everybody's like, so because she was talking to me, telling me about the girl she works with, talking about going to prom because it's prom season, and she goes, "Well, my prom was Slayer,
Yeah.
so I just didn't."
Wow.
Yeah, last weekend I was at a this time last week I was watching Clutch in
Mhm.
Columbus, Ohio. So
Cool.
yeah, it's nice being able to get to concerts finally again. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, um, like I said, I don't want to take up much any more of your time here, sir. Um,
One thing I would like to mention
yeah,
before I go, we are looking at starting kind of a horror magazine. So that's in the works. Please keep in touch. Yeah, I don't know if we can do it or not, but I'll let you know if we do.
yeah, definitely. Um, and I would like to. My goal is that relatively soon, maybe
Mhm.
um, midsummer sometime. I got stuff going on from now till June, so I don't want to try to plot it in
Mhm.
there. So maybe July-ish. I would like to do a horror host episode where I get like maybe
Yeah,
four different hosts, like you, maybe Sally the zombie
love it.
cheerleader. Get
Uh-huh.
and just do a big one like that, so we can do in like a round table, I guess, but digital.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's something
no, that sounds cool.
yeah, it's a in the works working thing because I
Okay.
like I said before, I don't know how to turn things off. I have to go. I I
I own it.
yeah. I get up at everybody makes fun of me. Well, you don't get up till 9 o'clock in the morning. I was like, but I don't go to bed till 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. So
Right.
and I work doing this. I got my shop. I do this show, two other shows. Um, got my kid, got my older kids, and I
Yeah.
take care of the house. So I'm a busy guy. But any upcoming? Well, you went through your list of conventions. I'm trying to think of the other questions I need to ask. This week's or not? Do you have next week's episodes? Because this won't air until next Monday.
No, I don't have those selected
Okay.
yet.
Okay.
But what folks can do, you can TennesseeMacabre.com is our website, and it'll give you links to all of our social media. But you can find us on Facebook, on Instagram, and on Twitter. And I will go out and I will post what we're going to air on Saturday morning. So, and where we're airing it and what time. So you can always find us. And then, of course, Vortex, Monster Channel, a little bit different, but I'll post those as they come available. And I try to post a few things from time to time with horror facts and some pictures and stuff like that. So please follow us on social media.
All right. This has been fun.
I have had a blast. Thank you
as
for having me.
you're welcome. Thank you for coming on, and thank you for dealing with my dog, my wife's dog being being in the butt.
That's okay. That's,
So,
that's a dog's life, baby.
yep. Well, you have a good night, sir, and take care.
Thank
And I'll give you a buzz sometime this week. I'll because I'm probably going to start editing this probably Thursday. Um, and
Okay.
fun stuff, and give you a heads up when the show drops and all that fun stuff. So,
I'm looking forward to it.
yep. Well, thank you very much, and you have a good
Okay.
night. And I will see
You too.
you later. Bye.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Bye-bye.
Bye. We would love to thank the Grim Reaper from Tennessee Macabre. You can find them on Vortex, Monster Channel, on TennesseeMacabre.com. You can find them on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and all that other fun stuff. And as always, Group Therapy is brought to you by RU Games. That's comic book collectible, magic, DVD, comic book, video game, toy store, located at 124 North Sunset Drive, Pickle, Ohio, 45356. Big shout out to everybody who's watching. If you want me to shout out your name, let me know, and I will shout your name out at the end of the episodes. So as always, take care, and I will see you every Monday at 12 noon for the new Group Therapy TV podcast, every Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Sci-Fi Fridays, every Saturday morning at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for Saturday morning serials. Until then, I am Paul, and I will see you all later. Take care. Bye.